Picture this: a peaceful prehistoric morning shattered by a blood-curdling shriek. The source? Not a raptor, not a T-Rex, but a beach ball-sized demon lurking in the shadows. Meet Beelzelbufo Ampinga, the devil frog, nature's 10-pound, 16-inch long middle finger to everything you thought you knew about amphibians. This late Cretaceous nightmare didn't just eat flies, it had the audacity to hunt dinosaurs. Skeptical? You should be. But prepare to have your world turned upside down by the frog that dared to defy the food chain. Beelzelbufo Ampinga, aptly nicknamed the devil frog, or frog from hell. This nightmare-inducing amphibian lived about 70 million years ago during the late Cretaceous period. And let me tell you, it was no ordinary frog. At 16 inches long and weighing up to 10 pounds, this beast was roughly the size of a beach ball. A very angry, very hungry beach ball with a mouthful of powerful crushing jaws. Now, you might be thinking, sure, it's big for a frog, but eating dinosaurs? Come on. After all, when we think of the late Cretaceous, we usually picture T-Rexes stomping around and velociraptors hunting in packs, and long-necked sauropods grazing on treetops. The idea of a frog being a top predator seems, well, a bit bonkers. But here's where our story takes an unexpected hop. The devil frog didn't live in the familiar dinosaur landscapes of North America or Asia. No, this amphibian anomaly called the country of Madagascar home. And late Cretaceous Madagascar was a very different place from the island we know today. Picture a semi-arid landscape, dotted with seasonal water holes and patrolled by creatures that would make modern wildlife look tame by comparison. This was a land where evolution had taken some truly bizarre turns, and Beelzelbufo was one of its strangest products. But before we dive into the nitty-gritty of how this frog became the stuff of dinosaur nightmares, let's hop back to more recent history and explore how scientists stumbled upon this prehistoric predator. After all, the story of Beelzebufo's discovery is almost as fascinating as the frog itself. It all started in 1993 when a team of researchers was sifting through Madagascan soil, probably expecting to find dinosaur bones or ancient plant fossils. Instead, they unearthed something that would make them question everything they thought they knew about prehistoric amphibians. But it wasn't until 2008 that Beelzebufo was officially introduced to the world, when scientists David Krauss, Catherine A. Forster, and Sophia E. Evans gave it its devilish name. And what a fitting name it is. Beelzebufo combines Beelzebub, a name often associated with the devil, with bufo, the Latin word for toad. Ampinga, its species name, comes from Malagasy, meaning shield, a nod to its armored head. So, we've got ourselves a shield-headed devil toad. If that doesn't set the stage for an epic prehistoric tale, I don't know what does. Before we dive deeper into this incredible anomaly, if you're already feeling the prehistoric hype, why not take a quick second to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up? It helps the channel grow and ensures you don't miss out on more mind-bending stories from Earth's wild past. Plus, it makes this devil frog very happy, and trust me, you want to keep Beelzebufo on your good side. Now that we've set the stage for our prehistoric amphibian antagonist, let's take a closer look at what made Beelzebufo a literal nightmare. Let's start with the basics. At 16 inches long, Beelzebufo was the size of a large pizza. Not that intimidating, right? Wrong. This frog was built like a tank, weighing in at a hefty 10 pounds. To put that into perspective, the largest living frog today, the Goliath frog of West Africa, tops out at about 7 pounds. So Beelzebufo wasn't just big, it was the heavyweight champion of the frog world. But size alone doesn't make a predator. What really set Beelzebufo apart was its skull. Picture a frog's head, now reinforce it with armor, add a pair of powerful jaws, and you're getting close to what Beelzebufo looked like. Its skull was wide and flat, with a huge mouth that could open to terrifying proportions. This wasn't a frog that was content with catching flies. This was a frog built for crushing bones. Speaking of crushing, let's talk about those jaws. Beelzebufo's bite force has been estimated to be around 2,200 newtons at the back of its jaws. If that number doesn't mean much to you, think of it this way. That's comparable to the bite force of modern wolves and female tigers from a frog. Let that sink in for a moment. Now, you might be wondering, why on earth would a frog need a bite that powerful? Well, my friends, that's where things get really interesting. You see, Beelzebufo wasn't your garden variety insectivore. With jaws like that, scientists believe it was capable of tackling much larger prey, including, yes, small dinosaurs. But Beelzebufo wasn't just all mouth. Its entire body was built for predation. It had a robust skeleton, much stronger than that of modern frogs. This gave it the strength to grapple with larger prey. Its legs were powerful, allowing it to lunge at unsuspecting victims with surprising speed. And let's not forget about that armored head we mentioned earlier. The Ampinga part of its name, meaning shield, wasn't just for show. Beelzebufo's skull was reinforced, providing protection as it tackled its prey. This wasn't a frog that was worried about getting hurt in a scuffle. It was built to dish out pain, not receive it. In many ways, Beelzebufo was like the bulldog of the frog world, squat, powerful, and with a face that only a mother could love. But instead of chasing after tennis balls, this frog was chasing after animals that could fight back. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds less like a frog and more like some kind of amphibian T-Rex. And you're not far off. In its own way, Beelzebufo was every bit as fearsome as the large predatory dinosaurs we're more familiar with. It was a testament to the incredible diversity of life in the late Cretaceous, a time when evolution was pushing the boundaries of what was possible. But Beelzebufo wasn't just a random mutation, a one-off freak of nature. It was the product of millions of years of evolution, perfectly adapted to its role as a top predator in the unique ecosystem of ancient Madagascar. And to understand how it got that way, we need to take a closer look at the world it lived in. So stick around, because we're about to dive into the bizarre and fascinating ecosystem that gave rise to the devil frog. So let's zoom out a bit and take a look at the world Beelzebufo called home, Madagascar. But not the Madagascar you might be thinking of. We're talking about Madagascar as it was 70 million years ago during the late Cretaceous period. And back then, the rules of nature were completely different from what we know today. First off, forget everything you know about modern Madagascar. No lemurs swinging through the trees, no baobabs trees stretching towards the sky. Heck, the island wasn't even in the same place it is today. During Beelzebufo's time, Madagascar was still connected to India, and both were drifting away from Africa, creating a unique evolutionary playground. Picture a landscape that's part Jurassic Park, part Mad Max, and part Alice in Wonderland. The climate was semi-arid, meaning it was pretty dry most of the year, with seasonal rains bringing temporary relief. This wasn't the lush, tropical paradise we associate with Madagascar today. Instead, think of a savanna-like environment, dotted with seasonal water holes and crisscrossed by streams that might dry up for part of the year. Now, you might be wondering, how does a giant frog survive in a dry environment? Well, that's where things get interesting. You see, Beelzebufo wasn't your typical water-loving frog. It was more likely a terrestrial species, adapted to life on land. Those powerful legs we talked about earlier, they weren't just for jumping. They were for traversing this rugged landscape, moving from one water source to another as the seasons changed. But Beelzebufo wasn't alone in this prehistoric wonderland. Oh no, it shared its home with a cast of characters that would make your head spin. We're talking about dinosaurs, of course, but not the ones you're used to seeing in museums or Hollywood movies. Madagascar in the late Cretaceous was home to some truly bizarre dinosaurs. There were abelisaurids, a group of predatory dinosaurs that looked like T-Rex's weird cousins, with tiny arms and often horned or crested heads. One of these, Majungasaurus, was likely the top predator of the ecosystem. Well, among the dinosaurs at least. Then you had the titanosaurs, long-necked sauropods that were some of the last of their kind. These gentle giants would have towered over everything else in the landscape, including our friend Beelzebufo. But here's where it gets interesting. Their babies and juveniles might not have been off the menu for our devil frog. And let's not forget about the other smaller creatures scurrying about. There were primitive mammals, ancestral birds, and a whole host of reptiles and other amphibians. It was a veritable buffet for a predator like Beelzebufo. But perhaps the most important feature of this environment, at least from Beelzebufo's perspective, were those seasonal water holes we mentioned earlier. These would have been prime hunting grounds for our amphibian ambush predator. Imagine the scene. A small dinosaur, perhaps a juvenile titanosaur, approaches the water's edge for a drink. It's hot, it's thirsty, it's not paying attention to its surroundings. And then, bam! Out leaps Beelzebufo, its powerful jaws clamping down on its unsuspecting prey. It's this unique combination of environmental factors, the semi-arid climate, the seasonal water sources, the diverse array of potential prey, that allowed Beelzebufo to evolve into the bone-crushing predator we've been discussing. This was an ecosystem that favored adaptability, power, and opportunistic hunting, all traits that Beelzebufo had in spades. But here's the kicker. Madagascar's isolation meant that this evolutionary experiment was happening in a vacuum. The animals here were evolving in ways that were totally different from their relatives on other continents. It's why Beelzebufo got so big, so powerful, so, well, devilish. So the next time you think of Madagascar as just a tropical island paradise, remember Beelzebufo. Remember a time when this island was a crucible of evolution, forging creatures that pushed the boundaries of what we thought was possible. A time when a frog could make dinosaurs think twice about bending down for a drink. Now that's a Madagascar worth exploring. Now that we've set the stage and introduced our prehistoric amphibian star, it's time to get to the juicy part, quite literally. Let's talk about how Beelzebufo hunted and what exactly it was chomping down on with those massive jaws. First things first, let's address the elephant, or should I say the dinosaur, in the room. Yes, we've been teasing that this frog ate dinosaurs, and I promise we're not just blowing hot air. But before we get to that, let's break down Beelzebufo's hunting strategy. Picture this. You're a small dinosaur, maybe a juvenile titanosaur, and you're minding your own business at a watering hole in late Cretaceous Madagascar. It's been a long, hot day, and you're just looking to quench your thirst. Little do you know, danger lurks just beneath the surface. That innocuous log at the water's edge? That's no log. That's Beelzebufo, and you're about to become its next meal. You see, Beelzebufo was what we call an ambush predator. Unlike some of its dinosaur contemporaries that might chase down their prey, our devil frog preferred the sit-and-wait approach. Its stocky body and powerful legs weren't built for marathon chases, but for explosive bursts of speed over short distances. Perfect for lunging out of hiding to snag unsuspecting prey. Now, let's talk about that lunge. Remember those powerful legs we mentioned earlier? They weren't just for show. When Beelzebufo decided to strike, it could propel itself forward with incredible force. Imagine a beach ball suddenly transforming into a cannonball. That's the kind of surprise Beelzebufo's prey was in for. But the real star of the show was Beelzebufo's mouth. Those massive, powerful jaws weren't just for intimidation. They were precision killing tools. When Beelzebufo clamped down on its prey, it was game over. Remember that bite force we talked about earlier? The one comparable to wolves and tigers? Yeah, that came in real handy right about now. So, what exactly was on the menu for our hungry frog? Well, that's where things get really interesting. You see, with a mouth that big and jaws that powerful, Beelzebufo had a lot of options. Smaller prey? No problem, swallowed whole. Larger prey? Those jaws could crush bones, making even bigger meals manageable. Now, I know you're all waiting for me to confirm it, so here goes. Yes, based on what we know about Beelzebufo's size, jaw strength, and the ecosystem it lived in, it's entirely possible that it ate small dinosaurs. We're not talking about it taking down a full-grown Majungasaurus, of course, but smaller dinosaurs, particularly juveniles, they were fair game. But let's not stop at dinosaurs. Beelzebufo probably wasn't a picky eater. Other amphibians, reptiles, primitive mammals, if it could fit in Beelzebufo's mouth, it was potential food. This opportunistic feeding strategy would have served Beelzebufo well in its semi-arid environment, where meals might not always be guaranteed. Now, I can hear some of you skeptics out there. But wait, you're saying, frogs don't have teeth. How could it possibly eat something as big as a dinosaur? And you're right, most frogs don't have teeth. But Beelzebufo wasn't most frogs. While it didn't have the kind of teeth we're used to seeing in predators, it did have bony projections in its mouth that could help grip prey. Combine that with its powerful jaw muscles, and you've got a creature perfectly adapted for subduing and consuming large meals. But perhaps the most mind-bending part of all this is how Beelzebufo would have eaten its larger prey. You see, frogs can't chew. So for bigger meals, Beelzebufo would have had to employ a technique that modern frogs still use today. It would use its eyeballs to help push food down its throat. That's right, folks. This frog was using its eyes to eat dinosaurs. If that doesn't give you a new appreciation for the wonders of evolution, I don't know what will. So the next time you see a little frog snapping up a fly, just remember, millions of years ago, its distant cousin was out there striking fear into the hearts of dinosaurs. Beelzebufo wasn't just a predator. It was a testament to the incredible diversity of prehistoric life, a reminder that evolution can produce creatures more fantastical than anything we could dream up. And who knows, maybe somewhere out there, buried in the rocks of Madagascar, there's a fossil just waiting to be discovered that shows us a Beelzebufo in mid-meal, forever preserving the day a frog ate a dinosaur. Now that we've painted a picture of Beelzebufo in all its prehistoric glory, let's take a step back and talk about how this amphibian anomaly leaped from the ancient past into the annals of modern science. Because let's face it, the story of how we came to know about this dinosaur-munching frog is almost as fascinating as the frog itself. Picture this. It's 1993, and a team of paleontologists is sifting through the sun-baked soil of Madagascar. They're probably daydreaming about unearthing the next big dinosaur fossil. Maybe they're even placing bets on who will find the next T-Rex equivalent. But life, as they say, is full of surprises. Instead of a dinosaur bone, they stumble upon something different, something that doesn't quite fit the mold of what they expected to find. Frog fossils. But not just any frog fossils. These were big, really big. Big enough to make the scientists do a double take and wonder if the Madagascar heat was playing tricks on their eyes. Now, discovering fossils is one thing. Figuring out what they are, how old they are, and how they fit into the grand tapestry of evolution. That's a whole other ballgame. It's like trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle where half the pieces are missing. The picture on the box is blurry, and every now and then, someone sneaks in and changes a few pieces just to keep you on your toes. So, our intrepid scientists pack up these puzzling fossils and begin the long, meticulous process of study and analysis. And when I say long, I mean long. It wasn't until 2008, a whole 15 years after the initial discovery, that Beelzebufo was officially introduced to the world. The team behind this groundbreaking discovery was led by Dr. David Krause, along with his colleagues Catherine A. Forster and Sophia E. Evans. Now, naming a new species is a big deal in the scientific world. It's your chance to leave your mark on history, to encapsulate the essence of a creature in a few Latin or Greek words. And boy, did these scientists nail it with Beelzelbufo Ampinga. I know I already mentioned it earlier in the video, but let's break it down once more, shall we? Beelzebub is a name often associated with the devil. Bufo is Latin for toad. Put them together, and you've got devil toad. But they didn't stop there. The species name, Ampinga, comes from Malagasy, the language of Madagascar, and means shield. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the shield-headed devil toad. Now, if that name doesn't paint a picture of a formidable predator, I don't know what does. It's like they knew this frog was metal before metal was even a thing. But here's where it gets really interesting. The fossils that Krauss and his team found weren't a complete skeleton. Far from it. They had to piece together their understanding of Beelzebufo from fragmentary remains, bits of skull, vertebrae, and other assorted bones. It's like trying to figure out what a car looks like when all you've got is a hubcap, a piece of the bumper, and half a headlight. Yet, from these fragments, they were able to reconstruct a creature that shook up our understanding of prehistoric amphibians. They estimated its size, figured out its closest living relatives, more on that in a bit, and even made educated guesses about its lifestyle and diet. Of course, as with any major scientific discovery, Beelzebufo didn't come without its share of controversy. The idea of a frog eating dinosaurs, that raised more than a few eyebrows in the paleontological community. Some scientists argued that while Beelzebufo was undoubtedly large and predatory, claiming it ate dinosaurs might be stretching the evidence a bit too far. But that's the beauty of science, folks. It's not about instant consensus, it's about debate, discussion, and the constant pursuit of understanding. Every new discovery, every new analysis adds another piece to the puzzle. And sometimes, it forces us to completely rethink the picture we thought we were putting together. The discovery of Beelzebufo did just that. It challenged our preconceptions about prehistoric amphibians, opened up new questions about the ecosystems of ancient Madagascar, and gave us a new appreciation for the sheer diversity of life that has existed on our planet. So the next time you're flipping through a science textbook or watching a nature documentary, and you come across some mind-blowing fact about a prehistoric creature, remember Beelzebufo. Remember that behind every amazing discovery is a team of dedicated scientists, years of painstaking work, and a willingness to challenge what we think we know about the natural world. Because who knows, maybe somewhere out there, buried in the rocks, is another fossil just waiting to be discovered. Another creature that will force us to rewrite the history books. Another Beelzebufo, ready to leap from the past and capture our imaginations all over again. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, this Beelzebufo sounds cool and all, but surely there's nothing like that hopping around today, right? Well, hold on to your lily pads, folks, because we're about to take a leap into the fascinating world of frog evolution and find out how our prehistoric predator connects to the amphibians of today. First things first, no, you're not going to find a dinosaur-eating frog in your backyard pond. Sorry to disappoint. But Beelzebufo isn't as disconnected from modern frogs as you might think. In fact, it has some living relatives that, while not quite as monstrous, are pretty impressive in their own right. Enter the modern-day horned frogs of South America, specifically the genus Ceratophrys. These frogs, also known as Pac-Man frogs due to their round bodies and huge mouths, are the closest living relatives to our friend Beelzebufo. And let me tell you, these guys are no slouches in the intimidation department. Picture a frog about the size of a dinner plate with a mouth that takes up about half its body and an attitude that would make a honey badger think twice. That's your typical horned frog. They're ambush predators, just like Beelzebufo was, and they'll eat pretty much anything they can fit in their mouths. Other frogs, snakes, mice, you name it. Now, obviously, these modern horned frogs aren't chomping down on dinosaurs, but their aggressive predatory behavior and powerful jaws give us a window into what Beelzebufo might have been like. It's like looking at your friend's much smaller, slightly less angry cousin and thinking, ah, now I see the family resemblance. But here's where it gets really interesting. Beelzebufo lived in Madagascar, right? But its closest modern relatives live in South America. That's quite a commute, even for a frog as impressive as Beelzebufo. So what gives? Well, this is where we need to dust off our old friend, the theory of continental drift. You see, back in Beelzebufo's day, Madagascar wasn't an isolated island like it is today. It was still connected to India, and both were drifting away from Africa. More importantly, there was still a connection between South America, Antarctica, and Madagascar. This connection, known as Gondwana, allowed animals to move between these continents. So the ancestors of both Beelzebufo and modern horned frogs likely originated in this southern supercontinent. As the continents drifted apart, these frog lineages were separated and evolved independently. In South America, they became the horned frogs we know today. In Madagascar, free from competition and in a unique environment, they evolved into the monstrous Beelzebufo. This is what we call biogeography, folks, the study of how geological changes and evolution interact to create the distribution of species we see today. And Beelzebufo is a prime example of why this field is so fascinating. It's not just a cool prehistoric animal, it's a window into the ancient world and how it became the world we know today. But Beelzebufo's evolutionary significance doesn't stop there. Oh no, we're just getting started. You see, Beelzebufo is what scientists call an example of island gigantism. This is a phenomenon where animals on islands tend to evolve to be much larger than their mainland relatives. Why does this happen? Well, on islands, the rules of evolution can get a little weird. There's often less competition and fewer predators, which can allow species to evolve in unusual ways. In Beelzebufo's case, it seems the lack of large terrestrial predators in ancient Madagascar allowed it to grow to monstrous sizes and take on a predatory role that might normally be filled by other animals. This is the same process that gave us other island giants like the Komodo dragon, the extinct dodo, and even the giants of Madagascar's more recent past, the elephant birds and giant lemurs. Beelzebufo is a reminder that this process has been going on for millions of years, shaping the diversity of life on our planet in fascinating ways. But perhaps the most mind-bending aspect of Beelzebufo's existence is what it tells us about the potential for diversity in amphibians. Today, we tend to think of amphibians as small, vulnerable creatures. Important parts of the ecosystem, sure, but not exactly top-tier predators. Beelzebufo shatters that perception. It shows us that given the right conditions, amphibians can evolve to fill ecological niches we might never have imagined. So the next time you see a little frog by a pond, take a moment to really look at it. Sure, it might seem small and harmless now, but remember Beelzebufo. Remember that in the grand tapestry of evolution, even the most unassuming creatures have the potential for greatness. Who knows? Given a few million years and the right conditions, its descendants might be the ones telling campfire stories about the mythical tiny humans that once roamed the earth. In the end, Beelzebufo isn't just a fascinating prehistoric creature. It's a reminder of the incredible diversity of life that has existed on our planet, a window into the processes that shape that diversity, and a challenge to our perceptions of what's possible in the natural world. Not bad for a frog, eh? Well, folks, we've taken quite the journey through time, haven't we? From the sun-baked landscapes of ancient Madagascar to the cutting edge of modern paleontology, we've explored the world of Beelzebufo, the devil frog that ate dinosaurs. But as we wrap up our prehistoric adventure, let's take a moment to reflect on what this ancient amphibian really means for us today. First off, let's address the elephant-sized frog in the room. Yes, Beelzebufo was big. Yes, it was powerful. And yes, it probably ate things we normally associate with being frog food, not frog predators. But beyond the sensational headlines and the admittedly cool mental image of a frog chowing down on a dinosaur, Beelzebufo represents something much more profound. This devil frog is a testament to the incredible diversity of life that has existed on our planet. It's a reminder that the world we see around us today is just a snapshot, a single frame in the long, ever-changing movie of Earth's history. Beelzebufo challenges us to expand our imagination, to consider possibilities we might never have dreamed of. Think about it. In a world where we often pigeonhole animals into neat categories, herbivore, carnivore, predator, prey, Beelzebufo comes along and flips the script. It takes an animal group we typically think of as small and vulnerable, and shows us that under the right conditions, they can become top-tier predators. It's nature's way of reminding us not to underestimate the potential of any living thing. But Beelzebufo's significance goes beyond just being a really cool prehistoric creature. It's a key piece in the puzzle of understanding how life on Earth has evolved and diversified over millions of years. Its connection to modern horned frogs gives us a tangible link between the present and the deep past. It's like finding out your quiet, unassuming neighbor is actually descended from ancient royalty. Moreover, Beelzebufo's story is a shining example of the power of paleontology. From a handful of fossil fragments, scientists were able to reconstruct not just an animal, but an entire lost world. They pieced together its appearance, its behavior, its environment, and its place in the ecosystem. It's a testament to human curiosity, ingenuity, and our unending quest to understand the world around us. But perhaps most importantly, Beelzebufo serves as a stark reminder of the impermanence of life on Earth. This mighty predator, for all its power and adaptations, eventually went extinct. Its world, so different from our own, was lost to time. In an age where we're facing unprecedented environmental challenges, Beelzebufo's fate is a sobering reminder of what's at stake. Yet, at the same time, Beelzebufo gives us hope. It shows us the incredible resilience and adaptability of life. In the face of changing climates and shifting continents, life found a way. It evolved, it adapted, it thrived. And while Beelzebufo itself may be long gone, its legacy lives on in the diverse amphibians that inhabit our world today. So the next time you hear a frog croak or see a tadpole swimming in a pond, take a moment to really appreciate it. That little amphibian is the product of over 300 million years of evolution. It carries within it the echoes of countless ancestors, stretching back to the time of Beelzebufo and beyond. In the end, Beelzebufo, our devil frog, is more than just a prehistoric curiosity. It's a window into our planet's past, a key to understanding its present, and perhaps even a guide for preserving its future. It reminds us that the world is full of wonders, both past and present, if only we take the time to look. And who knows, maybe somewhere out there, buried in the rocks, waiting to be discovered, is another creature that will revolutionize our understanding of life's history. Another Beelzebufo, ready to leap from the past and capture our imaginations once again. Until then, let's celebrate the devil frog, not just as a cool prehistoric predator, but as a symbol of life's endless capacity to amaze us, to adapt, and to thrive against the odds. In a world that sometimes seems to have lost its sense of wonder, Beelzebufo reminds us that there's still plenty of magic to be found, both in the depths of the past and in the world around us today. So here's to Beelzebufo, the devil frog that ate dinosaurs. May its memory continue to inspire us, to challenge us, and to remind us of the incredible journey of life on Earth. After all, in the grand story of our planet, we're all just part of one long, fascinating saga. And who knows, maybe in 100 million years, some future species will be making documentaries about us. Now, wouldn't that be something to croak about? Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Pointlessly Prehistoric.